Question I get all the time: should freight brokers co-broker loads? Should freight brokers co-broker freight? Should you use co-brokering to build your freight broker business? That's the question I'm going to answer for you today. And it's not as easy as a simple yes or no. There's a lot of nuance. The devil's in the details, just like in everything that you have to do in business, particularly logistics, okay? So the things I'm going to cover today is what is co-brokering versus double brokering, why you should not co-broker as a startup broker or agent, and then 3 cases where co-brokering can make sense, okay? So 3 cases where co-brokering can make sense, all right? So without further ado, we're going to jump in. Here's the reality, guys. Co-brokering and double brokering are different. Well, let me explain to you the nuance. I'm going to start with double brokering, which is in some ways kind of like a 4-letter word in the freight and logistics industry. Double brokering is the unauthorized rebrokering of a load, meaning all parties are not aware of it. There's not transparency. So the example is, I'm a broker. I broker a load to a trucking company. That trucking company then does not put it on their trucks as we agreed. They then rebroker it to another trucking company, which I'm not aware of. Okay. And that is the fundamentals of double brokering. Now there's fraud that can go involved with that. And then there's double brokering that goes through just fine with no fraud. But the reality is double brokering is a bad deal because it is unauthorized rebrokering. There's no transparency, meaning I wasn't aware of the carrier that the other carrier put that load on. So that's a problem. That's a huge problem. It's a liability for me, and it's a major issue. So double brokering is no go. All right. Never double broker. Co-brokering, on the other hand, is the authorized and transparent rebrokering of a load. So for example, if I am the shipper broker, which meaning I'm the originating broker who has direct contact with the shipper. Okay. So we'll call that broker A. And then there is broker B, who is the carrier broker who is actually sourcing and dispatching the trucks, into the pickup locations. Okay. So you have the shipper broker and the carrier broker. They are working together in a partnership. Okay. Now that partnership is just like a broker carrier agreement, but it's a co-brokering agreement where everybody has well-defined roles and responsibilities, and the terms of doing business are well-defined. So it's fully transparent. So sometimes co-brokering can be beneficial. And I'm going to share with you 3 ways that co-brokering can work. All right. So now that we covered that, let's jump into why new freight brokers and freight agents should not co-broker loads. Why is it not good, particularly for new freight brokers and freight agents? Well, here's why. Startups should not focus on co-brokering because you need to get your own direct shippers and your own direct carriers. You cannot be dependent upon other brokers to originate freight for you or to move freight for you. You should not be co-brokering as a startup broker. You need to focus on developing your own shipper and your own carrier relationships in order to build the foundation. In order to build the foundation of your business, right? If you build it on co-brokering, it's built on a weak foundation, and that can cause major issues. So you want to build a strong foundation in your business, which means shipper direct and carrier direct relationships. Okay. All right. So that's part 1. Co-brokering can also be very risky and can cause you to lose control of your freight, which could cause you to lose your customers, right? So there's more risk involved in co-brokering because there's another party. You've got a broker, then you got another broker, then you got a carrier. So there's more moving parts, which is more places and more opportunities for things to go wrong. So it's riskier to co-broker, all right? Another reason why is many shippers do not allow co-brokering, okay? Part of their broker carrier agreement or their broker shipper agreement is that you're not allowed to co-broker. So that's another issue that can cause you major problems and cause you liability in the event that you do co-broker to a shipper or for a shipper load that doesn't allow it. Okay. Now, those are a couple reasons why you shouldn't focus on co-brokering as a new broker. all right, or a new agent. Let me share with you a few scenarios, 3 scenarios to be exact, where co-brokering might make sense, all right? So number one, if you are an established broker, meaning you've got your own customers, you've got your own carriers, you're moving freight, maybe you're doing $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, maybe you've been around for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever. You've got the basic established brand, you got the established systems, you understand broker. You're not a true startup anymore, okay? Now, if you're an established broker, you should still focus on getting your own direct shippers and your own direct carriers, but you may want to partner with other established and reputable brokers on a strategic basis. Now, what I mean by strategic is, it's not your core competency, but you may want to have ancillary services. For example, 3 of the areas that I'm going to share with you today are LTL, rail, and ocean. Okay, specifically LTL, rail intermodal, and and ocean intermodal. Okay, so let me talk about those really quick. One of the benefits of co-brokering for an established broker is, for example, in the LTL space. Let's say, for example, you are focused on full truckload freight, maybe van or flatbed or refrigerated full truckload freight. You could do LTL on reefer, but let's say it's van, reefer, or flatbed, full truckload. But your customers keep asking you for LTL rates, 1 pallet, 2 pallet, the common carrier stuff, right? Small LTL. So what you might do is partner with another established broker that has a lot of expertise and a lot of experience and well-established tariffs and discounts with LTL carriers, with LTL common carriers. So what you would be able to do is you would be able to piggyback off of their discounts. If you as a broker were to go to those carriers, you're not going to get nearly as good of a discount as these established brokers because they have high volume. They have long-term relationships. They have a lot more expertise and are a lot more sophisticated about negotiating tariffs and rates. Okay. So LTL could be a good place for you to co-broker if it's strategic, right? You still have to be very careful. You still want to make sure there's a contract. You still want to make sure it's transparency. You still want to make sure that the company's very reputable, right? So LTL can be one of those places where co-brokering makes sense, all right? Another place is with rail intermodal. Now, what do I mean? Well, rail intermodal is where you pick it up at the origin with a truck, a drayage, you bring it to the rail, they transload it onto the rail, and then the rail runs the line haul a big distance, and then they unload it onto another drayage truck, and then that truck delivers it to the final location. So it's truck, rail, truck. Okay, so it's a 3-part movement. Now, most brokers don't understand rail, they don't understand drayage, and they definitely don't understand the complexity of intermodal rail because it's not nearly as easy as a one-pick, one-drop van load. Okay. So a lot of times what will happen is, as a broker, you will not be able to go direct to the rails. You're not going to be able to go direct to BNSF. You're not going to be able to go direct to CSX. You're not going to be able to go direct to Norfolk Southern or any of the major rails. They don't have the time or energy to work direct to give you direct rates as a small broker. So what they do is they work through strategic partnerships, which are called intermodal marketing companies, or otherwise like an IMC. So they have established relationships with other larger brokers that have established base of customers that have a volume and where it makes sense for the rails to establish a contract with that broker as an IMC, where they're giving them wholesale pricing. Okay. So you as the broker would now work through an IMC, right? Through another broker who has an intermodal marketing contract with the rails, and they would give you door-to-door rail rates. Okay. So if it picks up in Buffalo and delivers to Atlanta, or picks up in Buffalo and delivers to Los Angeles, they would handle the drayage, they would handle the rail component, and they would handle the back-end drayage for delivery. You will get door-to-door rates. You will then mark up to your shipper, sell to your shipper. And then from there, they're going to handle all the heavy lifting, right? So you'll give them all the details and they will do everything. They'll dispatch the drayage. They'll make sure it gets on the rail and they'll make sure it gets delivered. Okay. And you'll make a small margin on the back end for the door-to-door rail service. Now, that's a good strategic way, in addition to LTL, to use co-brokering as a freight broker. All right. And then the third and final one I'm going to share with you is ocean intermodal. Okay. So for example, you are not going to be able to get, as a new broker or even a small broker, established contracts and relationships direct with the ocean liners. You're probably not going to become an NVOCC, right? So what you would do is you would work through an international freight forwarder. Now, they're not a broker, but it's very similar to a co-brokering relationship because there's multiple brokers in there, right? The forwarder's acting as a broker, you're acting as a broker. So ultimately, it works very similar to the intermodal rail, but the intermodal ocean movement, the freight forwarders, international freight forwarders, would give you an all-in rate. Let's say it picks up in Paris, France, and it's got to go to Tallahassee, Florida, just a hypothetical, right? They're going to give you a door-to-door rate, right? Which includes the drayage to the port, getting loaded on the ocean liner, and then the drayage on the destination side. They'll give you a door-to-door rate that you can then mark up and sell to your shipper. And they, again, will do all the heavy lifting on the back end as far as the rail movement, but allow you to make a small margin. Okay. So hope that makes sense. The devil's in the details when it comes to co-brokering, but I strongly suggest that if you are a freight broker startup, do not focus on co-brokering. Focus on getting your own direct shippers, focus on getting your own direct carriers, develop that foundation of your business, develop a strong foundation, and then a year or 2 or 3 or 5 years into it, you could strategically develop relationships with other established and reputable brokers, like I described to you, maybe for LTL, for rail, or for ocean. You could also explore other options, but I strongly suggest that you stay in control of your shippers and stay in control of your carriers and the dispatch to provide a very high level of service. So I hope that makes sense. So listen, if you're curious about becoming a freight broker or a freight agent, and let's say, for example, you're looking for a guide kind of A to Z, right? Check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Trained over 10,000 students, had that program for like 15 years. And we offer a 60-day, 100% unconditional money-back guarantee. Can't make it any easier than that. Again, you can check that out at freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Do me a huge favor. If you like this training, hit me up in the comments and let me know. You've listened all the way to the end, so it tells me I must have done something right. Hit me up in the comments with 1 to 10. 1, Dennis, this was terrible and you suck. 10, this is awesome, amazing. Please give us more trainings and make sure you hit the like button. Truly appreciate you guys being here. Have an awesome day, and we'll see you next week.